Hello and welcome. You're watching News Center. I am Ashmat Kumar. Now, a day after notifying the rules for AI-generated content, the government has released a set of FAQs, or frequently asked questions, set to give clarity on intent and implementation of these rules. Firstly, the FAQs clarify that synthetic media or AI-generated content is media that can appear like a real person or event in a way that may deceive viewers into believing that it is genuine. This is the kind of content that the government is looking to target. What is not on the government's agenda, government's radar, are routine edits using AI. Say, for example, an AI filter on a photo that you may have clicked, or using AI to compress video for uploading, or translating a video from Bengali to English, or for that matter, making a PowerPoint or a PDF file using AI. The government calls them good faith edits, and they can continue without any change. What is on the government's radar are illegal content generated using AI. The FAQs give detailed examples on what cannot be permitted by AI platforms. The FAQs say that the AI cannot be used to generate sexually explicit deepfake videos, especially those of children. AI tools also cannot be used to allow synthetic images or videos that violate bodily privacy. For example, recent instances were seen of Grok generating inappropriate images. As per the rules, AI also cannot be used for generating fake government IDs or creating false documents like appointment letters, mark sheets, salary slips, or bank statements. Now, the FAQs also give us specific scenarios pertaining to public personalities. As per these rules, AI platforms cannot create videos showing an election candidate making inflammatory remarks that were not made, or show a celebrity falsely endorsing a product, or a deepfake news clip of a sports star making controversial remarks, or for that matter, allow a video of a government or a corporate leader giving false instructions. Now, as per the latest rules, AI companies are required to ensure that all lawfully generated content contains a prominent label saying synthetically generated. Meanwhile, all AI-generated audio clips will be required to have a prefix saying this audio is generated using AI. Further, social media companies are required to verify if content being uploaded by a user is AI generated, and if it is, the platform will need to ensure that it is labeled appropriately. Social media companies are further mandated to inform their users every 3 months that no illegal content can be uploaded by them by the users, and that if they do, they could be liable to face legal or even criminal action. The rules have also compressed timelines given to social media companies to respond to takedown orders and requests. As per the rules, users can request removal of nude images within 2 hours as compared to 24 hours earlier. Social media companies need to act on government takedown orders within 3 hours. Earlier, it was 36 hours. And videos featuring impersonation need to be removed within 36 hours as compared to earlier response time of 72 hours. But while this move may be well-intentioned, experts are raising concern about the implementation, feasibility, and efficacy of the new rules. To help us unpack and to get a better understanding of how these rules are likely to play out in the days to come, joining us now to discuss this is with us Nikhil Pava, founder of Media Nama. Also with us, Apar Gupta, lawyer and founder, director of Internet Freedom Foundation, and Rohit Kumar, founding partner at the Quantum Hub. Nikhil, let me come to you. And before we dive into the details with respect to synthetic content, I just want to get a sense as far as the timelines are concerned. Compress greatly. Take, for example, government takedown orders from 36 hours to 3 hours. The government's rationale has been, we spoke to a few government leaders, what they tell us is that these videos have a sense of virality to them. And if not taken down immediately, it defeats the whole point of the takedown. What is your assessment of this compressed timeline that social media companies now have to deal with?
Look, Ashmit, I think it's a difficult ask for both the government and the social media companies, because the government needs to be responsive to what we are seeing now with these nudify apps and what happened with Grok, and platforms need to be in a position to respond faster. So I don't envy the government's position here. They're trying to do with these particular timelines the best that they can for people who are impacted the most. At the same time, I think from a platform perspective, there's a feasibility question. It means that they will have to have 24-hour cells that are there to respond to orders and requests. What if you get an order at, let's say, 2 o'clock in the morning? You have 3 hours to comply, 2 hours to comply in other cases. How is it that you're going to be able to respond that quickly, right? Quite many of them also have very concentrated sort of content management operations that operate in different jurisdictions, they will need to set up these operations in the country. So these are also unrealistic timelines to take a judgment call in some cases where there needs to be a judgment call taken. Like if you have to go to your legal team for opinion on whether this order is lawful or not, how do you do that? You don't have the time. So what it does is that what is basically a requirement saying if you don't do this, you lose safe harbor, and you had a position to challenge it earlier. Now it just means there will be compliance no matter what orders they get because they don't have time to think. At the scale at which these things might come at them, it becomes even trickier. How do they respond within 2 or 3 hours when there are hundreds of requests coming in, right? Where is application of mind coming in? And this is, by the way, not these restricted timelines are not just for AI generated content. They are for all content, right? In some of these cases. So then a 3-hour timeline for all content is crazy because complaints will come thick and fast.
So huge compliance issue there. Apart, let me get you in on this. Are there concerns that given this time frame that they're looking at, compressed down to 2 hours to 3 hours, and as Nikhil was pointing out, this is not just for AI-generated content, but all content, that may result in over-policing of content, self-policing of content by the social media platforms themselves?
Ashmit, I think there are multiple concerns which emerge on the basis of these rules, which have been made through a process of executive notification and adds to what is a censorship framework for online content under compliances which are placed on social media platforms and intermediaries. And the worrying aspect of this has been a continuation of a great amount of opacity, which means that the person whose content is taken down does not get clear notice, the ability of a hearing, and gets a reasoned order. Because quite often these actions can also be actions which target speech, which is completely legal by itself. So if it is just a notice which is being sent by the government to a social media platform under these expedited timelines, which apply now to all social media content, then it would be an incentive for a social media platform to take down the content rather than risk antagonizing exchange with the government or even the potential of losing its immunity from safe harbor. I would also just like to take a step back that the government has also operationalized a censorship portal which is called Sahyog. Part of it was litigated in the Karnataka High Court, and in the Bombay High Court, there is a petition which is being filed against it. And this platform essentially allows different functionaries of also state governments, not only the central government, to send takedown orders. Now imagine hundreds of takedown orders, which are going under these expedited timelines directly from a public authority to a social media company or an intermediary without any natural justice. There is a high chance that it leads to censorship, which is extraneous to the intent of the of tackling the problem of deepfakes and how it is harming and impacting especially women and young children.
Fair enough. Right, so a number of issues there, Apar, that you've pointed out. Let's unpack them one by one. Rohit, let me come to you. One of the first issues that this set of rules does is that it goes beyond the social media platforms and then also casts a burden on the shoulders of the AI companies to say that even you have to ensure that no illegal content is generated. First things first, is there a capacity and technologically feasible for companies to do this on a daily basis with hundreds and thousands and millions of prompts going through their systems every day to ensure that no illegal content is generated? Is that technical capacity available with the companies to even discharge this compliance burden?
So, Ashmit, I think, see, the technical capacity is slowly building. Having said that, it's not perfect. Now, with the C2PA and, especially with certain kinds of AI detection techniques, I think it's definitely the technology is getting better slowly by the day. But having said that, it is nowhere close to perfect. So I am sure that tech companies will also falter in many different occasions. In fact, there's one specific point in the FAQs which highlights that for the significant social media intermediaries in the earlier versions of the IT rule, the provision was that they were nudging the significant social media intermediaries to deploy technology tools to do some of this detection better. Now they are kind of mandating it and sort of trying to see if they're doing it well enough as a precondition to safe harbor. So I feel that it will definitely put a lot more pressure on companies. Having said that, this is not to say that the tech is not there or the tech is not improving. It is definitely not 100% accurate, and there are a lot of misses that will definitely happening. Also, just building on what Apar and Nikhil was saying, I feel that the compressed timelines, as Nikhil was saying, it's definitely, there are victims on one side who have been adversely affected because something has gone viral. And therefore, the government also has a responsibility to those victims. And I think the attempt is that before things go viral, they kind of nip it in the bud. Having said that, it will definitely affect speech. Now, the question is whether this is a tactical call that the government has taken, between this freedom and, harms balance that it is trying to achieve on a spectrum. And, there will also be misuse. For instance, if government issues an order around political speech, there will be no way, as Nikhil said, to kind of question it, no time to sort of evaluate its legal efficacy, and the platforms will have to take it down. And most likely they will have to go in an automated direction to pull them down within the timeline that is kind of prescribed.
Sure. Let me come back with a supplementary question, Rohit. One of the aspects that, in fact, has been lauded by certain sections is that the clarity that the FAQs bring in, that number one, regular good faith edits will not be something that will be a part of this AI regulatory mechanism. So if I take a picture and if I add a filter to it, that's okay, that's not a problem. If I make a PowerPoint presentation, that's fine as well. If I use AI for translating Bengali into English, that's fine as well. How welcome is this this move, this watering down of this mechanism by the center? This was a concern that had been flagged by the industry.
Absolutely. And in fact, I would have started with that, to give credit where it is due. When the first draft of the SGI rules had come in, the definition of synthetic media was very wide. They were also very prescriptive. They were saying that 10% of a visual medium and 10% of the audio clip, etc., has to sort of have those disclosures. But I think in that sense, the government has done really well. So I think they have listened to the industry, and credit needs to be given where it is due. In fact, to say that, okay, we understand the limitations, we are narrowly defining what is synthetically generated content, what is deepfake, and we would like you to label it, and we will give you the flexibility to label it in a way that works best for the kind of medium that you use, while also preserving the authenticity or the integrity of whatever output is being generated, right? And I think this recognition also that there are positive use cases of SGI, that is very well appreciated. So on that part, they've done well.
Right. So on that note, let's head into a very short break. But there's a lot to unpack here as far as what the implications of these rules are. We'll come back to that with the benefit of our panelists in just a bit, but slipping into a very short break. Welcome back. We're discussing the new AI content rules notified by the government. Nikhil Pava, Apar Gupta and Rohit Kumar are still with us. Nikhil, coming to you. As far as the distinction that these rules draw, there's a distinction between social media intermediaries and significant social media companies. No such distinction is drawn for AI companies. The impression is that a Sarvam, say here in India, will have to do the same heavy lifting that a ChatGPT will need to do with respect to ensuring regulation of content.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I just looked it up on Hugging Face. There are 2.5 million AI models uploaded on Hugging Face right now. There are several open source models that people can use. And remember, these regulations don't just apply to images. They also, as far as I understand, they still apply to text as well. So these requirements are from everything that you can think of. So there is 2.5 million models. How will they enforce these regulations? These regulations are also going to be applicable extraterritorially by the looks of it. How will they impose it on someone uploading content and making it available in India? What all will they block? How will they address on-device processing? I think we need to have a more meaningful conversation about these issues. And I don't see the government having the kind of technical understanding of how models work, how AI is being used. Bringing intermediary regulations onto generation platforms makes absolutely no sense. There is, yes, the ability for some of these models to block outputs, like from what I understand, OpenAI blocks copyrighted content from being reproduced on chat, even though they do train on copyrighted content. So there are ways and means of preventing them. If you ask Gemini a question about our prime minister, it might probably end up refusing to comment on it because of what happened with Bard a few years ago. So there are mechanisms for prevention. But the fact is that only lies with the large models. It only lies with the ones that are widely diffused. There are still people can still gain access to images being made through API rather than through the models, through the formal apps, and there may not be restrictions that are jurisdiction specific, for example. So that I think we need to have these many provisions in these regulations were not put up for consultation. There is no transparency from MeitY about what responses they received that nudged them to make these kind of changes. If someone puts up a video of a movie that has visual effects,
Right.
and that is not simple editing, right? You also have de-aging, for example, in case of Harrison Ford in the latest Indiana Jones movie a couple of years ago. That is a significant change. I think Shekhar Kapoor recently uploaded a photograph from Masoom that seemed to be AI generated and very different from the original photo that was there. This had more color. So what is a significant change here? And can you really regulate using FAQs? Because the rules are legal, and I think they ought to be challenged in court. But the FAQs can't define law today. They can't define rules. FAQs are not accountable in Parliament. We've had this tendency to regulate using FAQs ever since the RBI did it with data localization, which is an abomination when you look at lawmaking processes in the country. It seems like we put out bad regulations and then we try and paper over some of the cracks using FAQs, saying we will not enforce it. But when they want to enforce it, the FAQs will hold no weight.
Let me come in on that. Let me also get Apar on that. Apar, again, similar question. Some of the scenarios that have been pointed out in the FAQs, they give the impression that perhaps even parodies or political satire may fall foul of these regulations, these rules. Political comedy, satire based necessarily on extrapolations, on exaggeration. Does that mean that tomorrow there can be no AI-generated parody of political leaders as well?
So, Ashmit, I think so. One needs to understand the rules in the existing political economy of how technology regulation is operating. As I stated in my initial comments, the government essentially has built a platform on which different government departments, not only at the center and the state, can send and upload orders. And these orders are directly then sent to online platforms. So the orders in effect are secret. They're never put to scrutiny, right? So one does not really know also how they are satisfying the thresholds which have been set in these rules or in these FAQs. So without transparency, usually what you have is that censorship actions do not turn towards a system of accountability in which we get to know what is being censored and why is it being censored, right? And here, I think so what's also important to understand is that the definition under these rules of synthetically generated information does have some carve-outs. But it says all of these carve-outs proceed from routine or good faith editing. Now, what is good faith? Who determines it? Is basically a government notification to a platform and a platform's obligation within 3 hours to act. And further, when you look at the definition of the carve-outs, there is no express exclusion for parody, satire, and in fact, there's a clear heading for significant social media intermediaries in which there are positive obligations put on it. And I will only tell 2 obligations. One, they have to prevent depiction of real life events. And quite often, what is the use of AI in visual creation is a real life event quite often. And that is also nebulous. That is vaguely defined. The second is that according to me, there is vagueness, there's sufficient vagueness in this law that without a court order, a person who has generated an AI video, any AI video, if it is found to be illegal through a private notice of a lawyer, their details need to be provided by the online intermediary to the person who sent that notice. So I think so. There are several aspects here which should deepen our concern and cannot be
completely out of
wished
time.
away.
Apart, I'll just have to intervene. Intervene. We're completely out of time. Rohit, just quick 30 seconds. Given the scope of issues that you, along with the other panelists, have flagged, is there room for perhaps a legal challenge as well as far as these rules are concerned?
Ashmit, actually, I won't go into the legal challenge. I would actually disagree with what Nikhil and Apar said a little bit. I think this is one, SGI rules is one where MeitY did two consultations. In fact, a lot of the changes they have made is in response to the issues that came up. We also have to understand that the Grok controversy happened in between, and the government is in a difficult place. All the issues that Nikhil pointed out about tech being extra-jurisdictional issues, they apply to all technology regulation. And lastly, when we say that the definition of SGI is vague, how else would you define it? I think there is really no easy way to define it tightly and objectively when the tech can be used in multiple different ways. So I would just like to end it with saying that, yes, it is not completely like how we would have wanted it. I do personally have a disagreement with the timelines that the government has put in. Having said that, I think
Right.
to give credit, it's a good faith attempt to try and address a very difficult problem.
Right, Rohit. So clearly we have a divided house on our hands, but that's the nature of these rules, inspiring very diverse conversations from across our band of panelists who've joined us. I'd like to thank all of our guests, Nikhil, Apar, Rohit, for making this a very engaging conversation. But that's all the time that we have. It's a wrap on this edition of News Center. More news and updates will continue right here.